Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Akshay Bhaiti, and today I have a tool which can really help you build actually production level voice AI agents. This is a tool that not only brings in the best capabilities of voice from across the world in a single tool, but also not only provides you a deployment platform, but also a management platform for the AI agents. Every other tool out there does not bring all of these three things in a single place. You always have to keep connecting them with something else. So this tool brings all the things that you need to create an agent, run it and deploy it, and also after that manage it. Plus it's extremely fast and really easy to use. So let's get started. The tool I'm talking about is SigmaMind AI. This tool has really everything that you need to get started. Okay, the first thing that you can go ahead and sign up right now. This video is powered by SigmaMind, so if you sign up right now from the link below, you get a $10 free credit that you can get started to actually start building amazing voice AI agents. With that, I've already signed in, so I'm going to click on Open Dashboard, and I'm going to come to my dashboard where we're going to start building a simple agent so that you understand how easy it is to actually get it started. Very simply, you see we are on AI agents, and I was trying something out. You can click on Create an AI agent, and here you already get a ton of templates that you can choose from. We're going to actually start from a blank agent, so I can walk you through on every step that is there to actually build the agent through. So we're going to click on Create a blank AI agent. And in this, we're going to take a very simple example of something that is really popular, right? Again, I'm going to try to create a debt collection agent. So companies like Rate.com and other mortgage services in US, they really need a debt collection agent who want to who's going to call someone if they lose a payment, right? If they miss a payment or something like that. So for that, I'm going to come here, right? And start by creating an agent that can go ahead and call the user, tell them that their loan is pending or their loan interest payment is pending, and they can go ahead and get started on that. Okay, perfect. Let me zoom in a quick bit so you can see. So the first thing that you see when you create a blank agent is very simply a trigger, right? Trigger is nothing but the point where you start the conversation from, right? After this, we are going to program everything that we need to make sure that the agent is actually able to respond in the format that we need it to. On the top, you can see there is an option to change the name. So I'm going to change this name to Debt Collection Demo, right? And I'm going to change this to Debt Collection Demo. Once I have that in the changes, you have these options which are the statuses of the agent. So I can select again disabled. This is right now set to testing, right? Or it can be live, right? I've zoomed in a bit, that's why it's looking like this, else you will be able to read the names properly. Then you also have the settings here available, right? Again, which you can switch between, and I'll talk about each one of these settings in a second. But first, let's start bringing our agent together. So as you can see, this is like a visual drag and drop builder, which is super easy. So first thing that I'm going to do is very simply, I'm going to connect this node here, where I want it to technically respond to the user by saying hey, welcome to the AI demo for debt collection. Again, you can configure this to be anything, right? But the point is, I'm just going to keep this. Now you have two options. You can either choose as a prompt or you can choose static. I want to keep it static because this is going to be the first message that the AI should say, right? Again, so here it's technically not going to do anything except just convert this to speech and tell the user about it. So we have this agent, but this is just the initial response, right? After this, we still want to also wait for the user to respond. So I'm going to wait for, like you can say, around roughly 5 seconds, right? Again, and just wait for the event, and I'm going to connect this, and because after this conversation started or conversation customer message received. This is where you want to select an event which technically says that wait until the message completed by the user. So if the user is speaking, don't start cutting them off, complete their message and then select that. You can also choose a couple of other things like agent message received, conversation ended, or the conversation updated, anything like that. I prefer this because it technically just says that you can wait for the conversation to get started or the message to get completed. So I'm going to write wait for user to complete their message. Perfect. And I'm going to write how can I help you here. Okay, and that's it. Now the next step after this is technically pretty simple. We technically want here to analyze the customer message, right? And here is where we can decide if the customer is looking for something specific, or I can also just simply say, instead of this, send response and connect this particular tool here. So what we are doing right now is pretty simple, right? Again, I'm just going to delete this so to keep it simple and zoom out a bit. We have a message where our AI agent is going to say this, right? So this is going to be send response AI. So you guys can detect easily which is AI, which is not. This is AI, and this is going to be, again, send response AI after user message. Okay, and I really like that, you can rename the every step so you can actually analyze what's happening every step of the way. Now here I'm going to write a simple prompt. Debt collection agent, ask the user if they have any debt payments pending, and if so, why have they not been able to? Now, in a real world scenario, I will technically not have this as an input, because very simply I want my agent to already know what we are talking about. But just as an example, I'm showing this to you so that we can put this, right? This is in a prompt format. I want this to change because I don't want it to be a static response. Sometimes maybe we will come back and add more values to this. But just for testing right now, we're going to build this out in a second. But now let's say you have all of these things. The best thing is auto save, so you don't need to save anything here. We can just go ahead and simply click on test in playground. And once you click there, you can go ahead and start testing your agent. We're going to test it quickly so that we actually see what's happening and understand what's going on. Yeah, perfect. You can select your agent from the right hand side. I'm going to select debt collection demo and just click on start the call.
Hey, welcome to the AI demo for debt collection. How can I help you?
Can you tell me how much my debt payment is pending?
I'd be happy to help you with that. Could you please provide me with your account details or any identification information associated with your debt? This will help me look up your payment status.
Awesome, perfect. Okay, so I really love that. Like the response came out really well, and I'm going to test it again in a second, right? But let's come back to the AI agent option, right? And I want to, one thing that you can do just to go back to the playground and show you one quick thing so that you can analyze your messages is come back here, right? So whenever you want to see the test messages, one thing that you can do is click on playground and come on and click on test history. Here you will be able to see all the messages that you've done. So you can come here and I can restore the conversation from there and also just see what happened, right? Again, you can I'm happy to help with that. Can you please provide me this and XYZ? And awesome, perfect. That's just me saying what I needed to say. But the best part is it responded pretty well, right? Even with a very simple prompt, they have a really good system prompt just to make it easier for everyone to not spend time prompting out the best agent, but just actually utilizing it to build something out. So let's come back here, and then now we will try to edit it a bit and probably connect a couple of other things also to make the agent actually get details, save those details in a single place and go from there. So what I'm going to do here is completely zoom in, and technically a debt collection agent should do two things. First, it should inform the user that we have a payment pending from you. Second, tell them that you need to pay this or here is a penalty. And third, record when they're going to pay the payment. So very simply, I'm going to say this I am from mortgage.com. I'm from mortgage company, right? And I need to talk to you about your debt payments for your house loan. Let's just say that's house loan, right? Again, and I'm going to say, is it a good time to talk? Again, we are still going to be nice here, right? Again, obviously, even if it's a missed debt payment, because a lot of times these are just mistakes that happen on the system and on a real world scenario. But we have this, is it a good time to talk? And then we bring it this here, wait for the event delay for the customer message to be completed. And then we're going to respond using this. Right here, you also have an option to draft a response and an auto response. We are just going to stick to auto response here. There are some advanced settings that you can do. You can also include a brand persona if you've created one. I'll show that to you in a second. But for right now, we're just going to stick to this. So let's come here and see what we can. So let's come here and now we're going to change again. Hi, you are again. I'm talking to this XYZ, and let's put in that. Now, the first thing I want to do before I even send any message is wait for the user message to be completed and analyze the customer message. You can see on the left hand side, just drag and drop this here. You put in the analyze customer message here, drag this and connect this, right? Give it a second. So we connect here and we select wait for a new message. I'm going to switch this off because we have already waited for a new message to happen. So I'm going to come here and say if the customer message is yes, right? If the customer message is they are okay to talk. This is all powered by AI, so you can just simply write in natural language. Else, if they are not interested to talk right now. So either of those things can happen. I'm going to move this away a bit. If let's say they are okay to talk, we'll proceed with our happy flow, which is like, actually going a conversation. But also if they're not ready to talk, and that could be the case, we're just going to put this, right, and drag a send response and just simply say, I'm going to make it static, because if the customer is not ready to talk, just make sure that you are also thinking this from perspective of your token usage and the AI usage. Here it's technically a simple message. I can just say, can you please tell me a better time to call you? And we're just going to ask that, and then technically just from here select another option, which is to analyze a customer message or wait for the message to reply. So I'm going to come here, connect with wait, and the event is going to be very simply conversation received. And then the second option I'm going to do is technically just simply send a response and say, understand what time has user offered to talk at, and confirm with them the same. So here technically I'm going to show you a cool trick that we're going to use, because right now the prompt that is here needs to know what customer message was, right? So we're going to come here, right, and we're going to curly braces, just click left curly braces and you'll get all the options here, right? So we're going to simply select, just very simply, we're going to select conversation, we're going to select customer, and we're going to select conversation, and we're going to select conversation.messages, right? And you can see all the sample data that is there and the intent and everything, and we're just going to put this, right, and we're just going to drop this, analyze the response from these messages. That's it, right? Based on this, if the customer has confirmed, very simply after this I can select the voice action, which is to end the call. So I'm going to drag and drop this and select voice end call, and that's pretty much it. And now I can go ahead and also test this in a second, but I also want to build out the happy flow. So you can zoom out by clicking this. Again, here it looks like this. I'm going to zoom in a bit and arrange these boxes from here. Give me a second quickly, guys. So we have this here, and this is going to be our event of yes and no. So I want the no's to be on the bottom, and I'm just going to drag and drop this here and technically also cover this thing outside. Perfect. Let's zoom back in. You can see I've just arranged it better, so we can for editing and all the other purposes we can come here. Voice action, I'm going to just say end the call, post conversation, right? And that's it. Now we're going to come back here and analyze the customer message, and you can say if they're okay to talk. This is where we technically want to bring in another option and drag in a send response. I believe we already have one node. So you can do is you can also right click here and delete this node if you want to. So given that I've dropped in an extra node, I can go ahead and click delete. You also see there is an option to duplicate it, so I don't need to keep dragging and dropping. I can duplicate this node from here. So let's keep this here. Send message, send response AI after user message. I'm going to connect this here. Click on the prompt option. But now before this, I also want to get some details about the user's loan. So anyone whom we are going to call, we're going to technically have some information about them, right? We are not going to just randomly call them. So given that this is auto saved, we're going to bring in something and go ahead to click on tools. If you see on the left hand side, there is this gear I created, which you can also open in the menu, and you can see there are tools. The one thing that SigmaMind brings out is they already have some defined tools. So they have some popular tools like Shopify, Checkout Charm, Cal.com, and Go High Level. So I'm just going to add a custom tool because I just want to utilize a Google Sheet that I can bring up and get information from. So submit tool and app, and it will create a Google Sheet, and now I can add an API action here, which is pretty simple, and I'm going to literally walk you through it on how easy it is to fetch details from a Google Sheet. Okay, so very simply, we're going to come to N10 and we're going to create a new workflow. Now, why do we need a new workflow? Is because you can directly connect to Google Sheets API also, but this is just easier to do it via N10. We're going to come here and select a webhook trigger, select on webhook, right? Again, and you can choose one of these options. I'm just going to select production URL. I'm not going to fill any of this because we're just going to keep it simple right now for the demo purpose. Then we're going to select Google Sheets, and you can select on getting row in sheets, or you can even ask it to search the sheet if it requires and everything else. We're just going to select get rows in sheet, and here we're going to select from list, and I'm going to create a new sheet for this. So let's quickly go ahead and create a new sheet as a demo. So click on this. I'm going to switch to my account. So we're just going to create a new sheet for this, and here you have the new sheet, and we're going to come here and make it loan debt demo, right? And I'm just going to have a couple of details here, just name, email, phone number, and we are going to also have very simply the debt payment pending. So I'm going to write $1,000 here, right? $1,000, and reason of payment, or the mortgage amount, or what is this loan for. So I'm just going to write loan details, right? And it's going to be let's say home loan, and the $1,000 payment is pending by the name of Steve. Email is s@s.com, and phone number, we're just going to keep this empty right now to this. Again, we have this. We're going to switch this sheet, and we're going to come back here. I already have everything connected. I'm going to select from document, and it's going to take a second to refresh, right? So 1 second, and it's going to be loan debt demo. Perfect. We have the sheet here, and from list we're just going to select sheet 1. Now I don't need any specific filters, right? Again, I can change this to match something, but again we are just going to get rows in the sheet because it's just some small data, so we're going to ask it to get that. I'm going to save this, switch this to active, right? And very simply take this webhook URL, select the production option, copy this, and bring it to our SigmaMind back. As you can see, I'm just going to say get details, and from here we're going to select get, and in this get we're going to put an endpoint URL, and here the parameters can be there. We can add search by the name or search something, but given that we are going to be outbound this content, right, it will technically, when the trigger is happening, we will already give the details. So what we can do here is we can also create a new column called ID, right, and we can put ID as 1. So every time our agent calls this particular phone number, it already gets the details of ID. I'll show that how that particular part works, but right now we're just going to keep this empty, and the body response is going to be JSON. I'm going to click on submit action, and then we can just simply come here and test the API, and you'll see authentication details are not found for the storage. Okay, configure authentication. I don't have any authentication here, so is that okay? Submit authentication. It's going to be no auth. Okay, you just need it. Even if it is no auth, you just need to submit that. It's pretty simple. So just go ahead, and we are going to click on test and API action. Perfect. Action executed successfully. I'm going to switch the response from immediately to the when last node finishes. Okay, so it's going to be first entry of the JSON. I'm going to just submit all entries for now to test it. I'm going to come and click save here, and now if you go ahead and test this again and come back here, click on this and click on test API. We're just going to click this. You get all the options: loan details, row number 2, Steve, s@s.com, phone number, and everything else, right? Now, this is the best part of this, that you can connect this with anything so quickly that you can configure so many different URLs and so many different actions that you want, and directly just link them together. So we have this connected now. We're going to come back to an AI agent, right? And we're going to come back here and bring it back to edit and actually give it the information that we have here. So come back here, give it a second. Okay, perfect. So now, again, if they're okay to talk, I want to technically add a node here where it says tools action. You can see I'm going to bring tools action, and here in the tools action option, I'm going to just drag this, connect this here. I'm going to select the app, which is going to be Google Sheet, and the action, you can add multiple details here. I'm just going to say get details, and now I don't think this is going to give an error right now, but you can configure an error node here also. I'm going to have this here, right? And then we can come here and say, so let's type in a simple prompt very simply here. Again, the user has accepted the conversation. Name and details are present in the conversation. So I'm just going to select Google Sheet, get details. and you can select multiple things. I'm just going to select Google Sheet get details.message, the present here in Google Sheet. Ask the user why have they missed their payment, and by what time would they be able to pay back the amount. Okay, we have this here. That's going to be the prompt. You have ensure to ask in a polite tone and understand their response. Once you have understood, go ahead to the next step. That's it. So now after this is done, we are just going to select one simple thing is I want to save this information, right? Again, for that I can create another tool right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click and create this tool and take this, as you can see, connect this here, select the app Google Sheet, and I'm going to very simply come back to tools option and quickly create one more tool here. So if you see, we already have this particular workflow. I'm going to switch this to get details for loan, and I'm going to create one more workflow. Come back here and just create quickly one more webhook trigger, right? And select this, and in this option we're going to technically be when the last node finishes. Instead of getting information, I'm going to put the information in there, right? Again, so put sheet, and in this here we are going to select update a row in the sheet. Update row from document is going to be loan bot demo. Sheet is going to be very simply sheet 1, right? And we're going to select sheet 1, and column to match up. Again, this is going to be again the ID, right? And the ID using to match is going to come from, and here instead of method being get, I'm going to switch this to post, right? And because it's a post node, I'm going to select this to technically get information from the user, right? So as you can see, we have respond immediately on the when last node finishes. Authentication, we're going to keep it simple, and response data is going to be simply no response body, because again I just want to give a success code. We have this node, so what we're going to do is you can copy this, and in here I just want to input question mark, and if you can see the URL, or I'm just going to paste this in light, right, so you guys can quickly see this properly. So we have this here, right, again, and we're going to put question mark, and we're going to say very simply webhook test equal to, I'm going to remove this and zoom in a bit. So webhook test equal to ID, whatever. So this is just going to be 1. I'm just going to test this webhook quickly in Postman. I'm going to paste this. You can see webhook test equal to 1. That's the value that I want to send to my webhook. I'm just going to click on send, and technically it will take all this information and respond with this details. And as you can see, we would have triggered this here, and you don't need to care about all these things. You just need to care that in the webhook test we are getting 1 as the value, and because the value is 1, we're going to click here, come back here. Column to match on is going to be very simply the webhook test. So I'm going to put this value here, and now it knows 1, so it knows what value to update. And in this debt payment pending, we can give a response something that the user has accepted, and that is going to be again part of the parameter that I'm going to create. So I'm going to create one more parameter, which is going to be the user response. So here we can add a response, so user response, and it's going to be the value here, whatever that is. So it could be again, the user is making a payment on 4th, right, of December, right? That could be the value, whatever it is. We are going to just take this and copy this as the URL. Copy this here, come back to our SigmaMind option. So we're going to come back here, and once we are back here, I'm going to come to Google Sheets, right? And technically I'm going to just create a new app, right, so that it's simple. Even though actually I can just create a new action. I'm going to click on new action here, and the action is going to be send details to Google Sheet, right? And you can see we're going to select post here. The URL is going to be this, right? And you can see we already have the option for query parameters. So what you're seeing here is actually the query parameters. Again, it's super simple. It's just that we are adding 2 options at the end saying what the user is going to talk about. So I'm just going to say T, or user message, right, here for you to make it super simple, and come back here to AI agents, paste this whole thing here, right, and add a parameter. So instead of adding these things here, I can just remove this, copy this URL, paste it again here, and now add the response. So it's going to be webhook test, the variable name or the static value, it's going to be webhook test as the URL, right, as the variable, right, and we're going to add one more parameter, which is very simply going to be user response, and this is also going to be user response here. So this is going to be what AI agent needs to send on the right hand side, and the left hand side are fixed parameter as such. Now again, that's pretty simple. We have the body, we have JSON, we're going to click on submit action, right, and you have the option here. I can even test the API and enter value, so I can say 2, I will technically say 1, and the user response is going to be like, testing webhook. Just before I test this, I'm going to configure one quick thing here. So we're going to select this to listen for the test event, so we can see actually when it's happening. Come back here, click on test API action, and then as you can see, we get a detail that its action is executed successfully. I'm going to move myself to the right so you guys can see this properly. Action is executed successfully, and here if you come back to N10, you actually get the details here, right? Testing webhook and webhook test 1. I can come here, input these details here back in N10. So it's going to be very simply debt payment pending, and I'm going to change this to the user response. So if I execute this step here, it is going to update this loan here, and you get see testing webhook is added as the debt payment pending, right? Again, technically this is supposed to be $1,000, so I'm going to add another option here, call response, and come back to N10, quickly refresh this, right, and we're going to take this and put this here, okay, and take a second, drop this here, and that's it. And we can remove all the other things that are there because we don't want to send any other further values, and that's it. We save this, we have both our workflows ready. Sending details for loan. Super simple. I believe just adding a couple of tools with N10 is just super simple because you can just add, drag and drop them. Now we have both these things. We're going to come back to our demo agent and update it. Okay, we have this, and we can add a tools action. So you can click on add function and select a tools action or a voice action. So what I can do is, as soon as the user has responded, I can just simply say add the last message that the customer said, right? So in this, we're going to come here, select on, very simply have multiple options available here from the variables, but I'm going to choose very simply conversation and conversation.last message, right? So latest message, right? And that's it. I'm just going to store the whole thing, right? Because I want to see what comes out, and I can also use this as logs after this. So we're going to just select conversation.latest message. The webhook for testing right now, I'm just going to keep it to 1. And now technically, once you have understood, go ahead and use your tool and update and send the details to the Google Sheet, right? And after that, and once doing everything above, end the call. Now, even when you're ending the call, you are going to select add a function, select on voice action, and in voice action, just a second, you can select the action to voice end call. That's it. And we're going to zoom out, right? Perfect. This technically looks like, our debt collection agent, which is super simple. And given that we were able to build this super quickly is because most of the things are already done and they're already working. Now it's time to test it out and then also come back and see a couple of more options that are available here. Let's come and click on test in playground. Perfect. We're going to click on start the call.
I am from Mortgage Company, and I need to talk to you about your debt payments for your house loan. Is it a good time to talk?
No, it's not a good time to talk.
Can you please tell me a better time to call you?
Maybe tomorrow, 7 a.m.
Great. I'll note that down for tomorrow at 7 a.m. Thank you, and I look forward to speaking with you then. If you have any other questions or need to reschedule, just let me know.
Perfect. As you can see, it completed the conversation, right, and ended the conversation also, and that's just perfect, right? Again, exactly the flow that we said. Ask what it is there and done. And the idea that it works so perfectly and the voice is pretty good and it's so fast, right? If you guys can just see this, right, again, this was again, it was less than a second, right? Even again, in your conversation, this is the time that they responded fully and the transcription came. It's just crazy, right? Again, just the latency is super fast. You can also use the same agent in chat and email. We're just going to stick to voice for now, but again, just the point that you can do it is pretty cool. Now let's test the happy flow. Let's see what happens there.
I am from Mortgage Company, and I need to talk to you about your debt payments for your house loan. Is it a good time to talk?
Yes, it's a good time to talk.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. I noticed that you missed a payment recently. Could you please share why that happened? Additionally, do you have an idea of when you might be able to make the payment?
I would like to pay back the amount probably in 2 months. I don't have any money before that. Okay, I think what's happening right now is it's going to go ahead and trigger this message back into sheet. So let's see that that has come through. Perfect. So you got the details, right? And then it just probably is ending the call because I've not added a node to say a final message. I've just said end the call after that. So it did enter the information. I don't have money for 2 months, right? Again, and this is probably the user message that's coming across using AI. So I think it's working good. Given that you were able to get all this information so quickly, it's great, right? We can probably modify the agent a bit more and change a couple of settings, right? But it was able to send the option. I also switch this to live to just see what is possible there. So if I bring you back to the agent, very simply what we have changed here is if you see here, the message technique just says that don't say this action, and then once done end the call, and I believe it's just going ahead and moving and ending the call as soon as it updates, because we got the update here, and after that we just have this message pending there, and that's it. Okay, perfect. I think again, this was a pretty cool demo. Again, you were able to create a whole voice agent which collects, and you can do a couple of more things. In addition to that, there are also some things on the left hand side, right? Again, the two of them are, one is branch, right, where you can technically create an if else condition if required, right? Again, I would technically just choose and like to use mostly analyze customer message, unless you have a very specific use case where you want to choose maybe like a static or an expression front. I would just choose analyze customer message all the time. There is also an option for jump, which is technically again, in case at any point in time the user says I want to talk to a human, right? And let's say they say this at any point in the time, we can say, what, simply the message could be, or you can use a help desk action, which I'm going to tell you in the second. But very simply, you can connect this here and say, let me just remove this so you guys can see this clearly, is just connect this here and say transferring you to a human, right? Again, let's say this is the option. I'll show you how this works. I'm going to delete this node. So jump is anytime the user says I want to talk to a human, let's say that's an example, you can say transferring you to a human, and you can actually transfer to a human using a help desk action, which is pretty cool, right? You can select the action here. You have a lot of options available. So if you use a software called Zendesk or any other software there, you can use this to assign the tickets and go ahead and do that. Again, it's really cool that they have already built this in help desk. You can do a couple of things. But for us to just test this, I can just see transferring you to human. So let me quickly show you this, how this will work out. And you can use jump with multiple conditions in case someone is asking to escalate, or someone is wants to talk to someone specific. You can do all those things. So let's test this.
I am from Mortgage Company, and I need to talk to you about your debt payments for your house loan. Is it a good time to talk?
I want to talk to a human.
Transferring you to a human.
Perfect. So you now get the idea that technically, it's just as soon as I say I want to talk to a human, it transfers me to a human, and that's pretty much it, right? So you can use jump to do all the kind of scenarios that might play out, like a user is asking for a refund or something like that, and some cases that can be handled by a human, some, or you can handle it to a different prompt. I'm just giving you an example that you can put it as human. You can maybe have a different kind of response. You can have maybe a couple of other things, but the idea is you can use that to jump from the conversation to anywhere, and that's why pretty cool name. They chose jump. People choose a lot of jargon stuff. I like this. Okay, and then again, the tools action and help desk action is there. Now let's come to the settings part, which is a bit more cooler and also super simple to switch on. So Right now, they directly connect with 11 labs, which is something amazing from the get-go that you have 11 labs connected. You can choose between multiple different voices. They also have like, a couple of like, specific voices for different languages. So Australian, you have like, Spanish, you have Hindi voice and everything. And this is pretty cool, right? Again, the idea their target is very simply that it's the best place to build quickly AI agents. You can choose voices which are pre-selected, which really work really well. And you can hear them, right? So I'm just going to select Raju. Let's see what
की हर बात को समझने
okay. So Raju will sound Hindi, obviously, right? Let's choose someone in Spanish maybe, and like, let's see.
Hola, gracias por comunicarte con nuestro equipo. Estoy aquí para ayudarte. Hola, gracias por comunicarte con nuestro.
Perfect. Now you get that, like, you can choose between different voices, but also one cool thing that they added is you can add background sound and you can choose between different models. So you can choose from multilingual to turbo to maybe another model that works for you. But again, 11 Labs has some of the best voice models, and this is a really good way of saying that, you know what, they're not reinventing the wheel, they're sticking to like what's available and bringing that all out to you guys. So you can choose a background sound also. I am kind of like, again, mostly on like, a miss and a hit and a miss on this, because most of the times my like, my preference is just like, keep it clean. Like, I don't like background noises, I don't like that, but that's my preference. You and your clients might want something else. So again, choose whatever works. Then you have the model settings, which is very simply like, the LLM that is working on this, right? So this is like, the processing of this, right? Again, the information, the prompts and everything else. I have selected GPT 4.1. You have a couple of other options from OpenAI, and you can choose like, between any one of them. The transcription is pretty standard. It's in which language is your customer speaking, and you can choose that. You can select like, you have German, Spanish, French, you have a ton of languages, you can choose between them. And then you have the call settings on hanging up and everything else. And then you have the dynamic variables if you want to create new variables, stuff like that. Let's go back and now come to exploring a couple of other things. We know how agents work, we know how the tools work, we know how the playground works, and let's come to phone numbers, right? Now, if you want to deploy your agent, you can technically buy a phone number right here, right? And I'm going to like, quickly do that in front of you. So very simply, you can purchase a number for US and Canada, and also you can connect for any other number across the world using SIP trunking. Now again, this is a pretty simple standard process for any other like, you want to connect with a third party kind of stuff. For that, you can use like, a ton of them. So for example, you can use like something like Airtel. Airtel offers this for their business services, so you can create like a number which gets connected to this. So again, that's pretty cool, but we're going to stick to like, the simplest format here. Now again, purchasing a phone number is simple, so you guys can go ahead. I've already added my like, credit card details. You can purchase one like, again, in any format, right? Again, so you're going to try like, United States, or maybe let's see Canada also. Like again, do they still need like, again, search area code? Okay, let's see if we can get some details, right? So we can connect any number here. You can also buy from a third party and add that, right? Again, so I think probably like my credit card is blocked from a number of reasons, so that might also be the case, but let's see what else we have here until then. So in campaign calls, very simply, you can create a new campaign, right? Again, and which is pretty cool. You can create a new campaign which has like, the details of it, the phone number which we have, which it's going to call, the agent that we are going to select. So that's going to be like, let's say, debt collection demo, and you can upload all the different phone numbers that they have to call here. So you can set that, and then you can enter like, the name of the campaign. So let's say demo debt, and I'm just going to like, again, drop a quick CSV file that I'm going to quickly create in front of you. It's going to be name, right? Our name is going to be Steve, and we are just going to put like, again, phone number is going to be like, again, I'm just going to put like a random number. I don't actually want to call anyone, and just export this, and we're just going to download this not as a tab separated value, but as a comma separated value, right? So we're going to come to file, download, and select comma separated values. Perfect. Download that, bring it back here. Let's see what comes in, right? So we put this here, we get this, and then we're just going to set the concurrency. Now again, we don't have actually a campaign to run, so we're just going to leave it there, but you can 110% do that. Another option is like, the help desk, which is technically like, something super cool, because you can connect this to your help desk, and you can select like, which tools, like let's say you're using Zendesk, you're using something else, you can connect with them and really like, again, allow them to have that conversation with your whole point, right? Again, so in blacklist, again, couple of things like from a help desk perspective, but like, again, you can really integrate this all together. Then we have like one of the most favorite features that they have here is conversations, right? Again, where you can see the conversation that has happened. These are going to be like, actual conversations, so this is not going to be test, where you'll be able to see the store name, the ticket, the channel, customer name, and everything else, where people can actually see what's happening. Then you also get analytics, which shows you the conversation that are happening, like, automated interactions or something like that. You probably see like something from behind, right? Again, if there is, and by channel, the intents that are selected, pretty cool analytics. So once you start actually launching campaigns, you get really, really good details here. On the billing and usage, again, it's pretty simple. You guys can check what's going to be built. Right now, I'm still on like, beautiful $10 free credit. So you guys can go ahead and check that out. That's why there is no billing as such. And then you can change some settings if you want here, like, the name of the organization, and add also more members. One of the best things that I like about, like, the whole pricing of SigmaMind is that it's pretty standard, right? It's directly on what you use is what you pay. And that's different than a lot of other tools out there. I don't want to, like, SigmaMind, I don't want to make any call out any specific companies, but the point is, like, again, this is very straightforward and standard about the pricing. So if I just move you to pricing, it's really perfect, right? Again, it's straightly, they don't care about number of people who are on your organization or who are building agents or anything else. They only care about the usage. If you're using the agent, you're paying for it, and that's it. And that, I believe, is a very great model, because they're not charging you for the software. And I don't know if you can understand this, but the software is free. Like, this software is absolutely free. You're only going to pay for the usage of it, and which is, like, again, so different, because every other company charges you for the usage plus the software. So you get an instant discount if you use SigmaMind, and I think that is something that really, really stands out here. Okay, so again, like, super straightforward. You can really go ahead and deep dive on it, and just, like, from there, see, like, all the prices that they have here. And you can also, if you have like a lot of volume, you can go ahead and get an enterprise plan from them, which I believe should be really helpful. They also have a community if you want to join that. But my submission would be, like, the best thing you can do right now is go ahead and create an agent right now, just right away, and start building and start creating an agent, test it out, and launch a campaign, and you'll see the results coming out really well, right? Again, and this is, like, again, something that I've been recommending to a couple of people now. Like, go ahead and test it out. It works across the world. You can add so many different numbers and launch like a single campaign for 10 different companies. Let's say you build a debt collection agent. You can run that agent for companies in India, in US, in France, across the world, because you just need to change the voice. The logic mostly stays the same, and you can run it all from a single platform. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you are interested to check out SigmaMind, go ahead and check out the link in the description. You get $10 worth of free credits, and please like, share, and subscribe this video. It really helps me out a lot, and I will see you in the next one.